Okay, so today we are diving deep into the mind of a villain,
Okay.
the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
But we are going way beyond the surface.
Okay.
We're breaking him down through the lens of the Enneagram,
Okay.
specifically as a sexual 4.
Yeah. Which really adds a whole other layer to things, right?
It does.
Because we are not talking about just any 4.
Right.
We are talking about someone who is driven by this really intense need to be seen as unique,
Yes.
as superior,
Oh, yeah.
to validate themselves through relationships, through experiences.
Okay, so it's not your, typical 4 dynamics.
No.
And the source material that we are looking at today
Yes.
really digs into how this plays out in Arthur's story.
Yeah.
And it really makes you wonder how much of his darkness
Yeah.
stems from this very real personality type.
Well, it's the question, isn't it?
It is a good question.
So let's start with envy.
Okay.
Because for the sexual 4, it's not just an emotion, it's like the engine that drives everything.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's not even wanting what other people have, it's craving that recognition,
Yeah.
that elevation above everyone else.
Yeah.
And it comes from this really deep-seated fear of being insignificant.
Right.
So they develop this desperate need to be seen as special, this
Yeah.
heightened, idealized version of themselves,
Mhm.
which of course is kind of a recipe for disaster.
Of course, because it's not real.
Because reality can't really live up to that, can it?
Never does.
No.
Which brings us to his comedy ambitions.
Yes.
Because it's not just that he wants to be funny.
Right.
He needs to be seen as the best,
He needs to outshine.
the most brilliant.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Otherwise, it's all meaningless.
it's like that absolute success.
Yes.
Like Chestnut said.
Yeah.
Anything less is just utter failure.
And for someone like Arthur, whose sense of self is already so fragile,
So fragile.
that feeling of failure is incredibly dangerous.
Yes.
And it festers, it turns inwards, and ultimately it becomes impossible to contain.
Which brings us to the next layer of this whole thing.
Yeah, right?
The pain.
Right.
Because when that need for extraordinary
Yeah.
isn't met,
Yeah.
that pain has to go somewhere.
It does, doesn't it?
Right.
And this is where we see that classic sexual 4 defense mechanism.
Oh, really?
Externalization.
Okay.
So instead of sitting with their pain,
Right.
processing it in a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
they project it outwards.
Okay.
Anger, blame, lashing out.
Oh, yeah.
These all become coping mechanisms.
And we really see that with Arthur.
Oh, we do.
Like at first he's internalizing.
He tries to keep it together.
He keeps it all bottled up,
Yeah.
but little by little it simmers.
Oh, yeah.
It boils over.
It becomes this toxic cocktail of resentment and aggression.
Yes.
And he goes from this withdrawn, almost invisible guy
Right.
to someone who demands to be seen.
It demands it.
Even if it's through violence and chaos.
It's that classic wounded wounder, right?
Yeah.
Like we've all encountered those people.
Like, all been that person.
At
some point.
At some point in our lives.
Mhm. We all have that capacity.
Yeah.
But in someone like Arthur, it's amplified.
Gosh, well,
Because
right.
his entire sense of self-worth is riding on this need for external validation.
Right.
And when it's denied,
Which it is over and over.
he lashes out,
Yeah.
and it becomes very destructive.
That's what I think is so interesting about this, because it's not just about understanding a fictional character.
It's about us, too.
It's about recognizing these patterns in ourselves
In the people around us.
and the people around us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like holding a mirror up to ourselves.
To our own tendencies, our shadow side.
To our own shadow sides, exactly.
Asking ourselves, where do I see this need for intensity in my life?
Yeah, how do I handle rejection?
Disappointment.
Yeah.
And how can I use this knowledge to cultivate greater compassion
Yeah.
for myself and for others?
For everyone.
And that's where I feel like it gets really tricky
Oh, yeah.
for the sexual 4,
It's a cycle.
because they need the validation,
Yeah.
but they push away
They push away the very thing,
the people that could give it to them.
the people they need it from the most.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
It's just so sad to watch
It is.
with Arthur,
It is.
because he wants so badly to connect,
he does.
but his attempts
He just goes about it the wrong way.
are so
Mhm.
clumsy,
Yeah.
inappropriate,
Yeah.
even disturbing at times.
Right. And I think about his relationship with his mother.
Oh, yeah.
A perfect example.
He wants her approval so bad.
Yes, but he's so possessive and demanding
Yeah.
of her attention.
And let's not forget about Murray Franklin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Talk about seeking validation
Talk about idealization.
from an idealized figure.
Yes.
It's so
He wants that recognition
classic,
so badly.
which of course blows up
And of course, when he gets on that show,
in his face.
it doesn't go the way he planned spectacularly.
Yo,
He doesn't get the acceptance
right.
that he was looking for.
He gets the opposite. And It's interesting, though, because the source points out that his violence
Yeah.
isn't calculated.
Right.
It's not premeditated.
It's more like these eruptions.
It's like these sudden
These
eruptions of rage.
Absolutely.
These impulsive acts.
And impulsivity is a hallmark.
Yes.
They have such a low tolerance for frustration.
And they need that immediate gratification.
Yes. And they don't know how to regulate their emotions.
It's like a powder keg.
Yes.
Just waiting to blow.
And unfortunately with Arthur, it just gets worse and worse.
So we have envy, pain rejection, impulsivity, all these volatile things
mixed up in there.
swirling around inside this person.
It is.
But can we really diagnose a fictional character?
Well, of course not.
Right.
He's not a real person.
Right. This is a product of
This is fiction.
fiction.
Right.
But it's interesting.
But what I think is so fascinating is
Don't think about.
that we see it in real life.
Right. It's not about slapping a label on something.
Okay.
It's about using this as a tool
Yes.
to understand human behavior
Yes, human behavior.
and the complexities of it.
Exactly.
And to see
patterns.
the patterns, the motivations, the
The
fears
deep-seated fear.
that drive us all,
Yes, even in their most extreme forms.
even in their most disturbing forms.
Yes.
And maybe by understanding it,
Maybe.
we can all learn
Right?
to navigate
They navigate our own
our own
personal landscapes. Yes.
with a little more compassion and awareness.
With a little more compassion and awareness, yes.
You know, it's like hurt people.
Mhm.
We see it all the time, right?
We do, and it's like most people don't take it to the same extreme as Arthur,
Of course not.
but those echoes are there.
They are.
That need for validation, that fear of rejection,
Right.
and the impulsive reaction.
When it doesn't go their way.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, though, with Arthur,
Yeah.
how much of this could have been avoided if someone had just recognized it
If someone had helped him,
and offered support.
yes, instead of judgment.
Yes,
And I think that's something to really think about.
it is.
Because it just highlights how important it is to understand this stuff.
Yes.
Not just for ourselves.
Right.
But to help other people.
Because the people who seem the most difficult,
Mm-hmm.
the most volatile,
Right.
sometimes those are the people who are hurting the most.
Absolutely. It doesn't excuse the behavior,
Of course not.
but it gives us a way to understand it.
To make sense of it.
Right. To realize their actions are coming from a place of pain
Yeah.
and fear.
So what does this all mean for our
Hmm.
listeners out there?
Yeah, what are they supposed to do with this information?
Now that they have this understanding.
Because it's one thing to understand it intellectually,
Right.
but it's another to actually use it,
To apply it.
to apply it to your life, to your relationships.
So it's not just about analyzing Joker.
No.
It's about recognizing the Joker in all of us.
Yeah. In our everyday lives.
That's right.
And in the people around us.
And maybe if we have a little bit more awareness,
Yes.
a little more compassion,
A little more compassion.
we can choose to react differently.
We can break the cycle.
We can break the cycle and build healthier connections.
Wow. That is a powerful thought
It is, isn't it?
to leave everyone with.
It is.
So to our listeners,
Yeah.
next time you meet someone
Mm-hmm.
who's stuck in that negativity,
Yeah.
who's lashing out,
Mm.
who's just looking for attention,
Yes.
think about the Joker.
Think about the children.
Think about the sexual four.
It might change how you see them.
It might change how you interact with them.
It might.
It might.
And we could all use a little more empathy
A little more empathy.
in the world.
Couldn't agree more. That is all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Okay.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.